I'm an alcoholic named Lavoy. My sobriety date's February 8th, 2014. I say that so I remember, and I mainly say that for anybody watching this video who's new in the program, or for anyone who is out there and wants help. I'm here to tell you there is help, and there is hope. I've tried. I started drinking in 1998. I was 18, just graduated high school. I started drinking because the whole atmosphere and the environment that was with it looked cool. Everyone's talking about it, whatever. Growing up, I was kind of that school boy or choir boy. I didn't really get into trouble, you know what I mean? I always had this fear of, what if my mother finds out? She raised me right. She raised me, my brother, my sister, single mother. My dad, he lives out in Maryland. We got to go see him every summer and every other Christmas and every other Thanksgiving. While out in Maryland, we got to go see, my grandparents. My aunt lived out there. Sometimes my uncle, I believe he lived in Virginia. But, a very loving family. We always had lights. We always had food, discipline. We know right from wrong, I always did. But behavioral-wise, I was that kid where you could offer me some free stuff, and I'm going to find a way to steal it. That's just how I was. You cannot take your eyes off of Lavoy because he's constantly into stuff. And that behavior never changed, ever. I would steal stuff here and there. But again, it was like, what if my mom finds out? But it gave me a rush. It gave me that, feeling. And growing up here in the early 80s, I was the only black kid in my class till about 6th grade, and I hated just about every moment of it. Couldn't really talk about it too. I don't know who I'm going to talk to about it. I also don't want to sound stupid, whatever the case may be, so I kept a lot of it to myself. I hated my name. Nobody could remember it. The teachers, everybody would screw it up. Leroy, Lamont, the boy. Really? So you think my mother and father would just be like, hey, we'll call him the boy. Whatever. But that's the stuff that I would have to deal with. And it became like a nuisance, you know what I mean? I'm petty. I'm very petty. My mom would always introduce, or whoever, my mom, the babysitter, my dad, didn't matter who. This is Ricky, Nikki, and Lavoy. And I'm the middle child. Why am I being introduced last? And why doesn't my name rhyme with theirs? To a degree, at a young age, I didn't mind self-pity at all. Poor me. I knew how to lure people in, and that started in like 1st, 2nd grade. I knew how to make people feel bad for me, and I would just, thrive off of that. In school, though, I never had a problem being popular. A lot of my best friends growing up were females. And growing up with, a single woman who also, she kept an eye on what I watched, what I listened to. So I couldn't listen to rap. Wasn't supposed to until I was basically in high school. So I was always very well in touch with my feminine side. And getting along with women was never a problem. I actually felt like, real comfortable with women, and when I'm chilling with guys, it always felt like I had to try a little harder to be a guy to some degree, so let me see, I've always been insecure. And I remember in high school, I came in as a freshman, 5'2", 90 pounds. Everybody was bigger than me. So So there was more reason to why I felt like I didn't fit in. Now, throughout the years, I never talked about any of this stuff. Occasionally, but not really, because I don't want to sound stupid, or you're just not going to understand. So I don't want to waste your time. I'll make that decision for you. I didn't hit puberty until I was almost 17 years old, and I'm listening to all my male friends talk about kissing girls and sleeping with them and all this stuff that you do, as a kid, and I can't join these conversations. I don't have a mustache. I just don't have. And I just felt like I do not fit in, but I've never had a problem being popular. People loved having me around. They still do, But for me, that wasn't enough. I needed more. Going to school, whatever. I didn't want to go to school because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I hated school anyway. My mom was like, "You're really smart," which, I was always book smart. School always came kind of easy. So I go to school, not really going to class. Basketball didn't work out. So now it's almost like, what am I going to do while I'm here? So I start hanging out a little bit more, and I wind up going with a friend of mine to Taunton. And while we're chilling, I'm a freshman. And and this guy, I believe he was a junior at the time. So it's like, I feel like I constantly feel like I have to fit in, So we're at this guy's house, and he says, "You want a beer?" And it's daytime. And I used to always say to myself, if you drink during the day or smoke weed during the day or during the week, you got a problem. But on this day, you want a beer? I didn't want to feel stupid. Yeah, give me a beer. What? I hate beer. I don't like it at all. I can't let this guy know because I don't know what he's going to say to my friend when I'm not around. I don't know what you're going to say right then and there in front of me to make me feel like a cheese ball or whatever, Yeah, give it to me. It was freezing cold. I'll never forget it. It was freezing cold. It was a natural ice. The first one, after the first few sips, it went down pretty quick. Halfway through the second one, I'm like a chatterbox. I'm just... Blah, 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 and I'm laughing a lot. I can't sit still. And my friend looks at me. He's like, "You drunk?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Let's go back to campus." So we go back to campus. At 18, I'm 18 at the point, and I'm the guy that has always had a fear of speaking to women. I don't know how to do it. I think pickup lines are corny, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sound like every other dude. Now, mind you, a lot of my friends growing up are female, so I already have the scoop on what women want to hear and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And a major fear is rejection. So I've been this little boy my entire life, and I'm not ready to face any of these fears or anything like that. So we go back to school. I'm talking to everybody. Every girl who I even thought was cute. You're not even necessarily cute. For a second, I thought you were. So, hey, how you doing? And I'm talking to girls who play basketball. I was a very good basketball player. That goes great. We go to a party. That goes great. And I'm like, I found it. Like, that's what I need. I never forgot that day. Ever. Forgot the date, but not the day. So basically, fast forwarding 2 years into school over the summer, coming into my third year, I got a letter in the mail basically saying, don't come back. Your attendance is horrible with class. Your GPA sucks. I'm like, all right, cool. I thought my mother was going to be mad, but she was like, I'm not surprised. Well, you're paying for it anyway, so it's whatever. Thanks, Mom. But that's when my drinking really started to pick up. It's a very small town that I live in, and in the wintertime, there's not much to do at all. And I grew to a point to where I needed to drink earlier in the day before I became a morning drinker, so things will be more fun. so I just don't care about what I do, who I'm around. I just need something to do, you know what I mean? And little at a time, that started to progress. This is major. In June 30th of 2001, I had only been home from school for 2 years. And I stole my brother's car. I remember going out that night. I had a total of 7 or 8 Long Island iced teas. I smoked a little bit of weed. And I also, before I went out, I had a half pint of Bacardi Limon and Sprite. And basically I get dropped off at the house around 3 o'clock in the morning. And I get dropped off 3 o'clock, and my brother was asleep. So I just went to the bathroom, and I'm wired for sound. Like, I can't sit still. I never could sit still. So I just took his keys. He had an Acura Integra, I believe. It was black, leather. It was clean. The thing was clean. Took it all the way across town, go to this after party. Driving back home, and 2 minutes away from the house, clip a trailer, fold the car around a tree. I collapsed my right lung. My collarbone still sticks up. Can't see out my right eye, which is why it's not paying attention in this video at all. But it's there. So basically, they, for whatever reason I don't remember, they called my grandmother first. My aunt answered the phone, and my aunt called my mother, took me to Falmouth Hospital, which they didn't have the technology for my brain injury, because apparently my brain had swelled up and it moved. So they had to take me to Boston, and my mother, 2 months after this, she went home. She had told me this 2 months later. She had gone home, and she did 2 loads of laundry, wash, dry, fold, put away, which I was trying to wonder when I got home from the hospital, why is my stuff folded like this, whatever. But she had basically said that if I saw them hook you up to a machine, I was going to tell them pull the plug. And the doctors clearly didn't have a choice but to hook me to every machine they had, because my brain injury and, my lung. So they had told her that I would never be normal again, that I would either be mentally retarded or a vegetable, and she knew I wouldn't want to live my life that way. So I was in a coma for a few days. She came up to see me, and I was awake, and I was talking, and that's when I realized I couldn't see out my eye. And I spent a month in the hospital mainly focusing on how am I going to deal with my eye. It was like, I'm a clown, my friends are clowns, so they're going to have jokes. So I kind of just, started making fun of myself, not as a cover-up, but it is what it is. It's there, you know what I mean? So, leave the hospital, and the best thing I can do about that is within 1 year, I got my first DUI. And my mother didn't talk to me the whole day. That's the worst punishment for me. Cuss me out, push me, fight me, all of that, But when you don't talk to me, and I know you love me or we have that relationship, that's the worst punishment ever. I left my sister and her friend hanging because they actually went to Atlantic City, and I was with a friend of mine. We were all supposed to go up the next day, but I'm at the club, I'm drunk on the way home, get busted. So I get my license suspended 120 days, get it back. Within a year of that, I got my second DUI. And I'll never forget this conversation, and I'm only 22, and this stuff is happening quick. And I remember talking to my lawyer at the time, and he's like, we can get you off, because he gave me about 6 or 7 field sobriety tests. I've had, ankle injuries from basketball. I had a growth spur or growing something in my knee as a kid. So basically, he's like, your eye. But he had said, we can get you off. And I told him, like, no, I need to go to this rehab, which was 2 weeks out in Tewksbury. It's like, I need to go. I'm really honestly feeling like, oh, there's a problem. And I'm willing to, face the consequences. And he stood up and he shook my hand and he said, that's very honorable, and I went. And that was the first time I actually felt the impact that I put on my friends and family from my accident. Because I didn't want to think about being a bad guy. I didn't want to think of the hurt and the pain that I know I caused. I just can't afford to think about it and feel like, honestly, excuse my language, but I don't want to feel like a bag of shit. I just don't. I'm dealing with all these other insecurities and trying to fit in, and I've been feeling like I'm less than my entire life. So this was something that I just shoved for a long time. And when I was at the rehab, the first time I cried. And I felt every bit of it, so I thought, and exchanged phone numbers with a bunch of the people. We left about a week later. We all met up at a bar. Go figure. And, my drinking just continued. And, 2005, that friend that was actually with my sister to go to that trip to Atlantic City, her and I started dating, and she woke me up one morning, told me that we were pregnant, and I was like, yeah, it was a lot. It was a whole lot. Very, very serious mixed emotions, because our relationship was never steady, and I had a decision to make, and I wasn't the most decisive person. I've always said I'm going to do stuff and never do it. I start stuff, I never finish it. I have an excuse, a reason, a blame for everything, I wasn't real good with responsibility at all, but I knew, she said I was going to be a father, and for a while, it's like I can't wait. I love kids, and I'm like that uncle that's always wanting to play. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still like this big little kid, and all the stuff that I can do with him or her. And well, she had told me one day I was at work that it was a girl, and I said, "Are you sure it's a girl?" And she said, "Yeah, her legs are wide open." I'm like, "Oh, so she's starting already now, huh?" Yeah, we'll see about that. But I was excited. I was at this point, her and I weren't together. I had broken up with her when she was 4 months pregnant. I always made a vow to never leave my child. Let me see. She was supposed to be born January 17th, and I get a phone call New Year's Eve. I'm with a friend of mine at a New Year's Eve party, and her cousin had called and said, she's pregnant. Well, not pregnant. She's in labor. So if you had been smoking weed and drinking, don't come. I said, I'll be right there. I am not going to miss my daughter being born, period. So I got there. She wasn't born that night, but I believe it was 11:48 a.m. She was out, and I got to cut the umbilical cord. I got to change her. I got to feed her. I was the first one to do any of that. And those first 3 days in the hospital, she never left my arms, ever. Like, that was, it's amazing how a child, and people ask you, how does it feel to be a father? You can't answer that. I don't care how intellectual you are or how much the dictionary. No one can answer. I'm beyond excited and looking at her in amazement, like, I had something to do with this. And I'm looking for little features, like, well, I mean, ironically enough, she has my eyes, and one's missing. Whatever. But, so we leave the hospital, and there was first 2 months visitation. I was, there was a lot of complications with that, we'll say. So the court got involved, and that was a part of this cycle And my drinking never really stopped. You know, I wouldn't be drunk around my kid, you know, but my thought process was just so out of whack. You know, I was very, very selfish, self-centered. Still, you know, I'm full of a whole lot of things. I forgot to mention back in about 2002, this is important, 2002, it's because of the way I would tell the story about my eye, the car accident, whatever, or the way I would refer to it, because I know it's going to make you laugh. I already know that. I've been a clown my entire life. But people suggested that I try stand-up comedy. So I tried it. The first time I did it in the kitchen at my mother's house. She had her friends, I had mine. Microphone, speakers, it was recorded, still have the tape. And then I wound up going to Puffer Bellies in 2002. I wasn't in the contest, but the judges wanted to give me second place. So I was like, I have something. So between basketball and comedy, these are the perfect things for me to hide behind. You're never gonna, everything looks fine on the outside. You know, pretty much stayed with a haircut, always had clean clothes. I do stand-up comedy, basketball. I'm a people person to a degree once you get to know me or whatever. So there was a lot that no one knew that of how I really felt, you know. So years go on, and this is just a way I would cope with things, you know. And somewhere along the lines, I crossed this line with liquor to where I'm drinking in the morning with my coffee. If I don't have coffee, I'm drinking anyway, you know. In 2005, I got my own apartment. You know, I maintained a visitation schedule with my daughter, and she had a great relationship with us. She loves my brother. You would think he's the dad. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But she so special. So special. It was July 28th, 2005. I threw her in the air and I caught her. That's the first time I heard her say Dada. But it would still eat me up a whole lot. Her and I have been through a whole lot. And, you know, that just added to more stuff that of how I'm dealing. But so 2005, I got my apartment. 2008, I had to surrender my apartment. Wasn't paying rent. You know, I'm an alcoholic. And when you pay me, like at this point, the year before, I was working at T&K Asphalt. I was making about $800 to $850 a week. My rent and utilities, my rent was $650. My utilities weren't nothing but maybe like $40, $50, because I'm never really there. I'm always working. And I still found a way to not save a dollar and just not pay rent. I'm sick, you know, and I'll figure it out. I spend a lot of my time, I remember saying this to my aunt once, I work better with my back against the wall. So I would almost position myself to that, or just wait for it to happen, and I'll figure a way out. And 9 times out of 10, I do figure a way out. I'm not paying attention or care enough about the people that I'm hurting, lying to, manipulating. It is what it is, you know, because there's a reason for it. There's a blame for it. You feel me? So, losing my apartment, I wind up moving to Maryland. Go stay with my sister. And I was out there for a year, almost a year and a half. My daughter was 3. That was hard. Really hard, because I promised I'd never leave her. And it was like little at a time, I'm doing everything I said I wouldn't do. I'm breaking commitments and promises to myself. Never mind everybody else. Everybody else totally knows. You can't really count on Lavoy, but he's not a bad guy, you know. So I burned a lot of bridges when I was out in Maryland. Real quick, I moved 4 different times. I went stayed with my sister, stayed with a friend of hers stayed with my dad, and basically I just, wind up coming back home, get back on the visitation schedule with my daughter. That took a little bit, but I got it. And my drinking it never stopped. My thinking got worse, a whole lot worse. And my drinking at times was starting to get like really bad. But I hid my drinking for a long time. Nobody knew how often I drank. Nobody. There was a few people, if you knew me, like my mom and my stepfather could tell. My brother, this is before, well, actually, no, my sister had moved already. But I was a closet drinker for years. Had to be, it was like, I'm too worried about what you think about me, what you're going to say about me when I'm not around. And I don't want to be judged anyway. I had to deal with all this crap in elementary school, and I'm too worried about you and what you're going to think, what you're going to say, what you're going to say when I'm not around, how you really feel, I guess. So I come back, and I remember I was landscaping with my stepfather, and it was a Friday. We started cutting, it rained, so we came back home. Well, we went to the bank, cashed our checks, whatever. We stopped at the store. I grabbed a pint of vodka and went over a friend's house right down the street. And, the sun wound up coming out. So he calls me. He's like, let's go do these 3 really big lawns, because what she does need help with. He's like, let's go do these 3, and I'll do the rest tomorrow myself. I was like, all right, cool. So I hang up. And I'd already started drinking. It's not even like 10 o'clock, 10:30, whatever. And I'm like, he's going to smell it once I get in the truck. So I at least need to tell him. So I call him back. I'm like, I don't think I can make it. He said, why not? I said, I already started drinking. He said, well, find a new place to live and find a new job. Click. I'm like, wow. I kind of felt like it was just a matter of time before that had happened. My mother used to threaten to kick me out all the time. And I would still take the chance. If you come back drunk one more time, all right. I'd still take the chance. I felt like I'm such a smooth operator and talker. I can get out of any situation. Like, that's me. That's, I'm a con artist. And at that point, it was my stepfather was just like, enough's enough. And I wound up moving down the street, and I stayed there for a while, and I caused nothing but havoc and chaos over there. A lot of late nights. The 2 daughters were still in school. The son, he pretty much worked for himself or his family. And I was just, acting like the world was mine. Like I was owed certain stuff. Just totally disrespectful, self-centered, really. There was turmoil. Then eventually I wind up going to stay at another friend's house, and there was a night that I apparently I blacked out, which happened. That was happening a whole lot more, and I always woke up like, why is my arm or my knee sore, or where did that cut come from? Where's my wallet? I've had over 30 phones, literally. I got my first phone in 2001. 2018, I've had over 30 phones. That's ridiculous. But that's just how, irresponsible. It's whatever. I'll get a new one. It's whatever. So I'm staying at my friend's, and the night before, I guess I spilled food, and she was sitting on the couch. I don't remember her sitting on the couch. I vaguely remember this night, but she had said I spilled the food, and I didn't even clean it up. I just put the plate in the sink and went to bed. So the next morning, the lady that I was staying with before was at the house, and I'm like, okay, this is weird, something's up. So asked me if I wanted to go check in. Do I think I have a problem? I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna hurt, to go look, see what this detox has to offer. It's Gosnell and family. So we get there, and I'm doing all kinds of paperwork and da da da. And the lady at the desk, she was like, okay, sign right here, and we'll admit you. My exact words. Admit like stay? And she said, yeah, no. I'm not doing that. I am not staying. And the lady that I was staying with, she's like, Lavoy, if you don't stay here for a few days and get some help, you are not coming back to my house. Nowhere else to go. And then I got the lady that was telling me to sign. She's like, oh, so many bad things can happen to you. You could have a seizure, and you could your liver, and she's just telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, a seizure? Like, okay, now you're pouring it on kind of thick. I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. I don't have another place to go, so I stayed. And while I was there, it took a few days, but I really wanted to stay sober. I really wanted to try. I left. I felt great. I loved the hugs and the respect that I got when I got back. I'm so sorry. That's a lie. That's the second time that I went. The first time I went was when I was staying at the lady's house with the daughters in school. When I left that first time, but again, it's like, there's two times right there. And both times it was, I'm done. I'm willing to do. I started meetings, and then I'd always fall off. I came out the second time, same thing, stayed sober for a little while, maybe a month or two. The longest stretch I ever put sober was 5 months. And I was going to meetings every single day. And I believe it was after this second time. But I was going to meetings every single day for 5 months. Every day, every day, every day. And it worked so far. My ride called me one day. Said, I'm going to the gym, not the meeting. I said, all right, cool. He's like, you going to be all right? Said, yeah. So the next day he calls and he says, I'm about to go to this meeting. I'm good. Not going. Bro, been doing this about 5 months now. I could take a day off. 2 weeks later, drunk. All over again. Vicious cycle. You do good, then you fall right back. You do great, you fall right back. And it was a life that I just knew to be normal. I'm the type of guy that gets comfortable in uncomfortable places, and it's whatever. I'm just totally dishonest to myself. I will tell me anything to feel better for that moment, because that's how long a moment lasts. But if I gotta deliberately lie to myself, go ahead. Why not? Look at the rest of your life. Or there's another reason to blame, whatever. But that's how I lived my life, like forever. I wound up going to detox again. No changes. That again was the whole living situation. I was actually living with my Nana at this point because the lady had enough. Like, no, we're finding nips everywhere. You're making a mess here and there. I had gotten into a fight with one of the nephews, which was totally my fault. That was the first time and only time I've ever been knocked out in my life, and he's half my size. But it's just like, just these things don't go anywhere. They keep happening, and it's getting worse. It's not registering or clicking in my head. I still feel like I'm smart enough to be one step ahead, and I'm a million steps behind. But that's a delusion that I live in. But you can't tell me I'm in a delusion. There's no way. Because I have every reason, every blame, blah, 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 blah. At least I'm not doing crack. At least I'm not doing heroin. It's just alcohol. Yeah, you're right, So I was living in my Nana's for a while, and I wound up getting in touch with my foster brother. I go move to Louisville, Kentucky. Originally, I was going just for 2 weeks, and I'm like, let me just move out there. Don't nobody know me. I can start all over. No judgment, none of that. Within 5 months, I found a detox. Only because my thinking took me into a very, very, very dark place. And this is what makes me so grateful today. And a very clear understanding that my life's not about me today. But for a few months, I would kind of like, wish that bus would jump on the sidewalk and take me out. I never had the guts to jump in front of it. I wanted to, trust me. Yeah, no doubt. The bus is coming, and I'm like, all right, well, how can I jump in front of this bus and make it look like an accident? Because I don't want people to be, oh, he killed himself, it was an accident, whatever. But then what would dawn on me is the bus driver. They didn't wake up in the morning. They woke up to do their job. Not to kill somebody, and that's going to weigh on their I can't do that to them. So when the bus would pass, I can't count how many times I would dip behind a building or something, go in the bathroom, and just cry. Like, bro, you can't even kill yourself. I was staying in a house that had no running water, no electricity. Going to the bathroom in a plastic bag in the toilet in the bag, throwing the bag out. Scrapping metal, I had a moment of clarity where, there were 2 times. Once I was dragging, the barrels that you see on the corner of towns and cities that say town of? Well, this one said town of Louisville. And I'm dragging it. It's wintertime. My hands are ashy, dry, and I'm dragging this thing to scrap it. Bro, it says City of Louisville on it. They are not going to scrap it. I'm a genius, though. I'm dragging this thing, and I'm telling myself I'm gonna tell them something. Maybe I'll cross something really sharp and I can scrape it off or whatever. But I stopped dragging it because my hands, they were junk. It was like it was just digging in my hands and bleeding, and so I stopped. There was another day where I remember taking a screwdriver, throwing it in a pile that we had. It was like this big. It was small. And I threw it in, and I took a few steps, and I looked back, and I'm like, this is what your life came to? Since I was 16 years old, I've always had a job. Always. On the books. My first job was Stop and Shop. And I've always landscaped. I've always helped somebody paint their house. Whatever. Cleanups, raking leaves, snow removal. I know how to work. My mother raised me to know how to. When you're 16, you're getting a job. Boom. Didn't have a choice. $4.75. Never forget it. Then I'm looking at this pile. Like, you work. And it just added so much. Like, the things that I've said to people, the things that I did in these drunken blackout moments, and the disrespect, the guilt, shame, and remorse was riding me into the ground. Now my prayers have just enhanced. For a few years, it was like, God, why'd you wake me up? I don't want to be here no more. Like, I'm done. When my daughter was 6, this was 2 years before I moved to Kentucky. She said, Dad, I was getting ready to pick her up. She said, Daddy, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I don't want to come over ever again. I said, Kiara, it's not your fault. I said, who loves you? She says, Daddy. I said, how much? And she said, this much. Never heard from her, seen her in 6 years. And that killed me all the way out. A few people, get kind of tired of hearing the same story when you're not doing anything to better it. And that felt a lot like, didn't nobody care, But this was all stuff that I put on myself. So for a few years, it was like, why'd you wake me up? It wasn't as serious, but by the time I was in Kentucky, it was like, I'm done. I am done. I remember, there's a few parks where like some real Bloods and some real Crips chill at, and I remember where the Crips used to hang out, and I'm like, you know what, I'll go put on a t-shirt like this, red, get drunk, and I'm going to walk through there. I'm not even going to talk trash. I'm just going to pick somebody who I know has a pistol, and I'm going to slap the mess out of them, praying that you kill me. These are the thoughts that were normal, like, you have to go out this way or whatever. There was, had a 38, praying for the strength and the courage to get it out of my pocket so I could shoot myself under here, go straight through, whatever. Like, I'm done, Then, I remember one morning, shortly after that incident, I remember one morning it was like, just go to detox. At least you'll be able to sleep. At least this heat, food. You've been to detox before, and it was like, oh, cool, I'll go for that. And I also knew that my thinking was scaring me. I didn't want to die. A piece of me did, yeah, but it was like, nah, Lavoy, you don't want to die. Your mother loves you. Your family loves you. Your daughter loves you. There's a lot she doesn't know. There's never been any example of co-parenting her entire life. But even for myself, I don't want to, nah. So I remember calling this detox. It's the Men's Healing Place in Louisville. I called them, and the lady said she had a bed, and she said there's a program across the street. I said, yeah, how long is that? She said 6 to 9 months. Whoa, 6 to 9 months, for real. She said, yeah. So I said, hold on. Put the phone down. Instantly, the number 15 popped in my head. Then I'm like, wait, 15? So it was like, okay, college, 98. Oh. So I got roughly 14, 15 years of damn near killing myself. Destroying every relationship I've had with everyone who I care about. What is 6 to 9 months to try? That's it. But I'm an alcoholic. I had $13 in my pocket. So I tried my last way out. I said, how much does it cost? She's like, it's free. I'm like, ugh. She said, you coming? I said, yes. I'll be right there. So I hang up the phone. My foster brother's in this bed. Now, when he gets out of bed, he'll put his basketball shorts on. He'll put his slides on. And for whatever reason, he puts on a hat. I don't get it. At the hat part, I'm lost. But it's whatever. But on this day, he heard the whole conversation. And he didn't know. And this is how selfish I am. When I moved out there, it was about 2 months into it. He said, why don't you tell me you drank this bad? You wouldn't have let me come. If I told you, like, yeah, bro, when I get up in the morning, first thing I'm doing is going to the liquor store. Or I'm staying up all night until I figure out how to get money to go to the liquor store. Like, that's priority, period. And he never knew that. So I'm selfish enough to move into his house. And at the time, I believe his son was 6, and his mom lived there. And it was like the chaos came with me. I brought me with me to Maryland back in 2008 when I moved out there. Now to Kentucky in 2013, causing havoc and chaos. But he heard the conversation. He said, so when do you want to go? I was like, as soon as possible. This man would have broken Usain Bolt's record. Carl Lewis in his prime, getting out of bed, getting into the next room. He comes back. Bam, it was like a blink. He was like, yeah, Uncle's on his way. I'm like, pfft. Now at this point, from the time I came into his house to the phone call, I'm back and forth to the bathroom because I got this half pint in my pocket. I got to pee too because I just pounded a 40, 211 Steel Reserve. I just drank that real quick. And I was mixing the pint. I put half of the pint in an energy drink, and that was gone. So now he's telling me his uncle's on his way, and I'm like, why am I trying to hide it now? Like, it's over. This is it. So I'm just drinking, and his uncle pulled up. I've never seen anybody get there so fast, ever, in my life. Oh, sorry to jump back. I apologize. Before that had happened, a good month and a half before that, I remember walking down the street, and I had a beer bottle down my sleeve because it wouldn't fit in my pocket. And I had a laundry bag, and I put it on the stoop. Now, as soon as I put it on the stoop, the door opened, and it's his mother. I'm like, because her and I used to argue all the time, especially when I was drunk, of course. So she's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, nothing. What's wrong with you? And she said, look at your hand, and there's nothing but blood coming down my hand, because with the beer bottle, it was glass. I fell. Wicked clumsy. Always been clumsy my entire life. So I took my arm out the sleeve, and my arm, I don't know if you can, but I have a cut right here. It's that long. But it's open. It's like when you push a water fountain, the water's coming out. Like, that's how it was coming out. And I'm taking pictures and all this other stuff, putting it up on Instagram, whatever the case may be. And she's like, you need to go to the hospital. I'm like, you need to pay the bill. I'm not going. I know what the bill's going to cost. Let me tell you about my accident in 2001. I don't see it like that. So, you need to go. And I'm like, we're in the hood. We're in the west end of Louisville. 32nd. They're not coming anytime soon. I promise you that. And I felt like I was being honest, but also real too. It's like, whatever. So she says, I'm going to call the ambulance. I said, cool, you call the ambulance. I'm going to go to the store because the store is closing soon. And I said, by the time I get back, they'll be here. I'll get in the whip and scoot. Real simple. And I was dead serious, though. I was not. I had to go to. I just broke my beer. That's my baby. That's my everything. Like, it has to be replaced. There's no other way at all. So, yeah, real quick. It seemed like as soon as it was actually my foster brother's girlfriend at the time who called the police, because she's in the back. Oh my God, LaVoy's bleeding everywhere, whatever. And it seemed like as soon as she hung up the phone, they were there. I'm like, how does this happen? But the nurse, she was like, you seem real irritated and all this other. I said I was really trying to make it to the liquor store and not come here. She's like, you were really going to go to the liquor store? I said, yeah. And she's looking at all the blood. And she said, well, how far, what do you drive? I was like, I don't drive, I walk. She said, well, how far was the liquor store? I was like, about a block and a half, maybe 2 blocks. She said, you would have died. You would have bled out and died. It's snowing out, you've already had tons of drink, you stink. If the nurse was on that doorstep and told me, you will die if you go to this liquor store, you're not going to make it back, I can promise you, anybody watching this, I still would have went. You're not going to tell me what I'm not going to do and what are the possibilities. That sounds like a LaVoy don't do. Oh yeah, he's doing it. I mean, I had no control over my alcohol intake, things I was doing to get it, the lies I would tell, everything. I had no control. I was pitiful. All my morals, everything's totally gone out the window years ago. But his uncle, fast forward, his uncle picked me up, brought me to the healing place. I didn't get to finish my pint. I was actually really pissed off about that again. And I go into the detox, and they told me to, sit down until I sobered up some. And there was this angel, there's this mural. There's this angel holding up a guy who's just like, looks broken. There's a liquor bottle right there. I just stared at that thing. And it was like, I knew I was in the right place. There was a piece of my mind that was looking at that like, haha, I get it. You're trying to pour it on extra thick. Because I'm always trying to figure a way out. I'm always trying to figure out an easy route. So I'm not taking that for as literal as it is. But then I am. So I'm confused, but I stayed there. I was in detox for about, I think it was 8 days, something like that. And I crossed the street to go into the program. There was 6 of us or 7 of us, maybe 8. And until this date, that was 4 years ago. Until this date, I'm the only one who stayed sober. Now, the other ones, they have multiple sobriety dates. I don't say that to say, haha, look at me. I say that because when I got there, I wanted to die. So when I got to detox, I was going to meetings. They had, you go eat breakfast in the morning, you come back, then you go to class, then you go back, then you go to a meeting, then you go back, you rest for a little while, then you go to another meeting, then you go back. It's like, so I'm still going to meet. But now, the first time I heard, you don't drink, you don't get drunk, I'm hearing stuff like that, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty simple. Why didn't I ever figure that out? But I'm letting these guys tell me everything I don't know. The first time I heard, the drink isn't the problem, it's your thinking. Now I'm sold. I'm sold, because it makes no sense to me. None. I'm so smart, I thought I had everything else figured out. Do you want to stand the situations I've gotten myself out of because of my mouth, which comes from here? But when I heard your best thinking, he said, what bed did you sleep in? I said, bed 109. That's where your best thinking got you. I had nothing but time to marinate on that. Like, he doesn't want nothing from me. So why am I not going to listen to it? So when I got there, I knew, Lavoy, you're here by yourself. How bad does Lavoy... And I kept hearing, like, where's your willingness? Every day when I got into the program, every Monday through Friday, we had to walk 2.5 miles to this church, 2.5 miles back. Every day. Monday through Friday. Weekends, you had to be back by a certain time if you want your bed. They would do a lottery in the morning. If you pick a number, if they call your number, you got a bed, but you have to be back by 3 or 3:30 to claim your bed. If you don't come back, somebody else got it. If they don't call your number, then you just gotta find something to do. There was 3 times I didn't get a bed. The first time I went back to my foster brothers, and the second and third time I stayed on property and I slept in a chair. I could have went back to my brothers, but I, for myself, needed to feel where I got me. I needed to feel like, you know what, Lavoy, sleeping in this chair is going to show you a thing or two. Like, this is what you did to yourself, So I slept in the chair, whatever, and let me see. Then about a month and a half, 2 months into it, I got into the program, and the program was the best thing to ever happen in my life. I love my daughter with every piece of me, but I was not able to be there for her the way that she needed. I was caught in the grip of a progressive illness, period. I was a dog on a leash. And that's no excuse, that's no blame, that's what it is. I learned that. I learned about the disease concept. I learned the truth about me. All the way back. I went all the way back to when I was about 4 or 5 years old, maybe 6, and everything I felt about myself. Being uncomfortable, being the only black kid in my class, being skinny, not knowing how to talk to women, fear of rejection. I even had to talk about how I hated that I was being introduced last. I hated how my name didn't rhyme. Petty, but I had to get honest. Anything that made me feel, I had to talk about repeatedly. When things would pop up, I would call my sponsor. I was told, get a sponsor, get a big book, go through the steps repeatedly. And it was just kind of like, then they would say, play your tape back. I never had a sponsor. I never took the steps. I did the 5 months on my own. What happened? No mental defense, nothing. You didn't know nothing. You're not wrong for being ignorant. You're not. And quick sidebar, that's what I feel a major problem is now. Alcoholic and drug addict, and then you have normal people. Both sides suffer from ignorance. And it's one of those, alcoholism is, it's not a disease. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. I look at it like this. It's a problem. It's a major problem. So either you want to help or you don't. The other part with technology and Google, and you can find facts if it's a disease or not. You can find any last thing that you want. It's up to you to be humble enough to say, let me dive into this or whatever. Either you're going to help or you're not. Some of us have this thing where we feel like we have to sound so intelligent or stick to this belief, which you're not wrong. You understand? But I'm basically to a point like I can't even like entertain that argument. It's a problem. Whatever. But sorry about that. But the program, I was held accountable. Fell asleep in class. I had being late for a job. There's so many different ways of being held accountable, and there's consequences. I got put on property restriction for 2 weeks, twice. The humility that I felt. Oh my goodness. I'm trying everything in my power to hold on to this idea. I'm not as bad as you still. I know, and I'm getting closer to the more honest part of it where, yeah, you are that bad. Look where you're at. Look at what he just said, and you agreed. You accepted that truth. But I'm still trying to hold on. They had a clothes closet. I'm not going in the clothes closet. No. Never mind where we slept. It was a cubicle. No doors. No shower curtains. So you're taking a dump. Everybody's looking. You're taking a shower. Your biscuits are out. It is what it is. But I'm not going in this clothes closet. One day I needed a pair of socks. So I go into the clothes closet. I grab a pair of socks. He's like, you can grab one other article of clothing. So I grab this black collared shirt, polo shirt. The significance to this shirt and how the creator works in my life. When I first moved to Kentucky, they're still wearing Echo. They're still the music they're listening to. I'm like, one of the first commercials I heard was coming soon to Kentucky Lottery, Keno. I'm like, I just moved back to the future. Like, this is ridiculous. Y'all are just now getting Keno. And why is Echo so like proud out here? You know what I mean? It's like we had that, been there, done that, whatever the case may be. So I'm in the clothes closet, whatever. I get the shirt and going to a meeting. I believe it was a Friday meeting, and this girl's there. So it's kind of like going to the meetings outside. It was almost like going to a club. You know what I mean? You want to put on your best, whatever. So I put this black polo on, and I go in the bathroom. I'm brushing my hair, brush my teeth, and I look up. The damn thing's an Echo shirt. Had the little polar bear or whatever right there. I said, you've got to be kidding me. But God was showing me he was real. He was showing me you're in the right spot. This is where you need to be. There's so many other little instances that happen. I had a lot of spiritual experiences. I took the 12 steps. I did what they told me to do. They said, you have a problem following directions. You like to do things your own way. Someone tells you cross the street like this, you're going to find a way to, make it work for you. Check this out. You are not that important. And I'm like, Dad, you just going to talk to me? Like, yeah, I'm going to talk to you. Your life is on the line, and you don't even understand how serious that is. So these are all things that I have to look at. I have to keep playing my tape back. When they say things like, when you come up with an idea of something to do, you need to run it by somebody who's got some sobriety time. Why is that? Because you came up with it. You don't know anything. And are you aware of your motives? How well aware are you of the depth of your motives? And how honest have you gotten with yourself? Sounds like a lot. But as it's happening, you're noticing change. You're feeling change. I remember I had only been maybe 2.5, maybe 3 months, and there was this thing upstairs we called it a horseshoe, the way it was shaped, like a horseshoe. The light stayed on at like the turn part, but it was like a square, whatever. That was called 4th Street Live. But I remember I had already made it around the other side, and I was getting ready to go downstairs into the next phase, which is phase 1. And these guys were talking about telling their war stories, and when I was out there, you know how it goes. Yeah. I'm like, it just sounded disgusting. It sounded like, y'all still talk about that? Or maybe it was the way they were talking about it. And I understood this. Lavoy, you did the same thing. So I wasn't passing judgment. I was noticing I'm growing. I'm changing. And that was something that I kept to myself for a little while, because it was like, okay, I need that to happen again. Are you going to show me again? Show me now. No, it doesn't work on your time. It's on his time. And that was a commitment that I made, step 3. I made a decision. I made a total decision. I was all the way in. I understood. I accepted my brain is not normal. It doesn't work like it. I am extremely selfish. I am extremely self-centered. And I am driven by fear. Period. I love my daughter. I love my family. I love a lot of my friends. I love humanity. I just love me more. And I had to look at that. I had to own, bro, yes, you stole that money from that lady. And the same lady called me within 2 minutes after I took it. I walked her through the whole process. Call the cops. They're probably going to tell you to come down, fill out a statement, whoop-de-woo. Call me when you get back. So she calls me when she gets back. I'm already at the Coinstar with her change. Told my people, do this, I gotta take this call. So I go outside, take the call. Oh, what'd they say? Well, yeah, they told me to fill out a police report. And I'm like, oh, for real? And she said, yeah, whatever. And I was like, all right. Now, I used to go to her house for 2 hours every Thursday. Older lady, she was about 80 years old. And I stole from her. Antique jar full of coins. I stole it. And I was plotting the whole time I was working for her. But I'm like a double-edged sword, because we would sit down and I would confide in her. She listened and she cared. She met my daughter once. And so there was a genuine I do care, but then there's that side where it's like, Lavoy, you can get something from her somehow, some way. It was like that with everybody. I don't care who you were. I'd always find a way to service myself through you. Period. It was the easy way out. The less work I had to do, the happier I thought I would be. But that lady, I called her the next Thursday. You need some help? She was like, no, I'm good. The next Thursday for a month. Nope. So I waited another like 3 weeks, a month. Then I called her like, hey, Gretchen, you need any help? Yeah, why don't you come by, whatever. So the program helped build me, gave me these tools to be a man. I turned 34 in this homeless shelter. And I remember before I went into the shelter, my birthday's May 4th. That's Derby weekend. My homeboy, hey, what you trying to do for your birthday? You know, we can do this, we can do that. What do you want? What do you want for your birthday? I don't know. Oh, well, you know, you gotta want something. And I'm like, I don't know. Because honestly, I don't want to be alive. That's why I don't know. And that's as honest as I can be. Like, we're gonna go over here. I don't care about any of that. I don't care. Like, so it taught me responsibility, the importance of being outside of myself. When I get so wrapped up in me, I start trying to serve me and making things work for me. I've spent my entire life doing that. And I'm a manipulator by nature. You know, I'm a con artist. Those are the things that I'm not a bad person. I'm sick. I'm not, you know, today, alright, I know the Creator. I call him the Creator. I call him God. I call him Great Spirit. I know he's taking care of me. So I don't worry so much about myself at all. The more I serve, the more he or she gives me what I need. Not necessarily what I want. It's the things that I want that have gotten me in bad situations, bad places, maybe hurt somebody. I'm not saying I still don't want things, because of course I do. I'm just very well aware of my motives. And I know now more than ever, the stuff that I walked around with for years, from an adolescent to an adult, 33, 34 years old, walking around with this stuff. There's so many sick people out here. And there's so many people who just want someone to talk to. I was him my whole life. You know, before I got to the healing place, you know, I had done comedy at the time for about 11 years, 10, 11 years. And then took 5 years off. Like, depression hit. And that got worse. And it went from, like, you know, I want to get back into comedy. I want to do this. I'm starting to, you know, I worked. The first job that I got was a painting job. Dude said, I'm going to give you $7.25 an hour. Excuse me? You said $7.25. Listen, I've been getting nothing less than like 15 since I was about 17 years old. Lavoy, don't forget, you were just scrapping metal. You were donating plasma twice a week as a job. Stealing clothes, stealing beer from the grocery store daily. Didn't care about nothing. You were stealing money from your 6 or 7 year old nephew out of his piggy bank. You're going to complain about, you even going to turn your nose up for a second. This man's giving you an opportunity. Beggars can't be choosers. Alright, cool. Yeah, cool. Let's get it. So I did it. Applied for another job. Then I work at a hospital. They had a great benefit insurance, and, you know, the package was cool, and people were cool, and I got to meet some really nice elderly people. I delivered trays and picked them up and worked in the dish pit. I met some really great dudes that I worked with. The women were cool. I was making $3, $4 more there. I was there for a few months, and I go try for this other job at the Kentucky Ford plant with a contractor. I got that job. Made the probation. They put me team lead. I was getting 16 and some change an hour. Great benefit package. First job I ever had in my life where I got vacation time. I got PTO. I'm like, what? You know who you just gave this to? And it was so Many times I would talk to my sponsor just about how grateful I was that these things were happening. Then there's that piece of me like, bro, you don't deserve that. Remember what you did? Remember how long you lived your life just hurting people? You don't deserve that. Nah, bro, you do. Look at the work you put in. Look at the people that you help. Just being honest. And look at what you're getting because you followed direction. You were told what to do and you did it. Can you continue to daily? Don't just pray in the morning. Pray throughout the day. Okay. So I'm doing everything that I'm told. Tell me to sponsor people. First dude asked me to sponsor. I'm like, for real? You want me to do that? You can't find nobody else? I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to hurt the guys. Fear starting to set in. I turned to my sponsor, bro. I don't know what to do. He said, Lavoy, calm down. First of all, sit down. Give him what I gave you. You're not God. That's all I needed to hear. And a lot of times, that's the importance for me of speaking to people who have that experience. Well, what did you do when you were in this? When this happened to you, what did you do? I freed myself. I told this man every last thing about me. You know all them secrets you got that you say you're going to take to the grave? Get that up off you. ASAP. ASAP. And step 4 and 5, I wrote everything down. I was like, how do I know I'm doing this right? And he's like, did you hide it yet? I said, hell yeah. Hit it twice. And the 5th step, I told him, talked about it. Everything. I cried. I laughed. I felt embarrassment. I felt shame. Felt like a jerk. And I was told, take an hour after that, meditate. The experience after the meditation, I can't put into words. The feeling light. You're walking around with a backpack that weighs about 500 pounds of cement and bricks. Then you take it off. Whew. Like, free. And, you know, my first year of sobriety. Now, you know, my sister, she picked me up. I got to come home. And we went to the powwow, which was awesome. You know, a few people like, yeah, you know, trying to slide me nips, because that was what I drank, root beer Smirnoff, 100 proof. I need the strong stuff, because I need to get drunk quick. I need that euphoria quick. But I could never turn it off once I started. Ever. Anytime I tried. But while we were home, I walked right up to that lady's house. I took $40 out of my pocket and I put it on the table. I said, this is your money. I said, I know you remember, but when your coins turned up missing, I took them. I took them to the Coinstar and I cashed them in and I got roughly $34. And this is your money. And she said, Lavoy, I knew you took it, but you're a great kid. You're not a bad person. I understand you're an alcoholic. And she handed me the money back. My alcoholic mind was like, bingo. You made your attempt. She didn't want to keep it. No, Lavoy, that's not right. I put it right back on here. This is not my money. It's just not. For the first time, I mean, she's older. You know, first time she got up and she gave me a hug and she said thank you. You know, I went to my daughter's mother, right on the doorstep, face to face, made amends. I'm a man now. You hear me? Anybody that I harmed, I mean, I'm whatever, if whether they accept it or not, I mean, I pray they do and we reach some sort of resolution. If not, I can't walk around with the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Nah, bro, you hurt them. You go make it right for yourself. Because you know you hurt them. Free yourself. Ever hear of the bondage of self? Yeah, get free of that. That's what I was taught. That's what I was told. So now, you know, I have this new passion for living. a whole new meaning. It's not about me anymore. Now, commitment. First thing they told me, get a home group, make coffee, whatever. So, home group, got to be there at 4:30 to start the coffee, set the chairs up, and I'm doing it. I'm doing it. The importance of that is, how many times did you not keep your word? How many times did you break a commitment is what I'm saying to you. We're gonna change all that. And it started with the home group. So now, it went from the comedy. I want to do a show. The creator just jumped in my head and came out my mouth, and it literally went from I want to do a show to I'm gonna do a show. That January, I did a show after 5 years. Then I did another show. And then I found a new spot, and I'm doing shows again. And I always wanted to get back into doing jewelry. I never really did jewelry. And I didn't because a lot of people, for whatever reason, would assumed I was gay for a long time. I used to hear that a lot, especially when I was in college. Like, hey, I know he's gay, whatever. Gay men hit on me and stuff. I'm like, where do y'all get this from? And it was an insecurity of mine. Like, I don't want anybody thinking I'm gay, So, for a period of time, I felt like I had to prove I wasn't. I had my fair share of sex. And that ate away at my morals, something serious. I was raised a lot better than that. I respect women a lot more than that. But I'm trying to prove what? I'm not even doing this for me. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, if there were any consequences, they were mine. I'm grateful that I've never contracted anything. I do have my daughter, which I would never trade for the world, but it was basically, I keep losing track. Sorry. I don't know. I just became a man, the jewelry. So I was in Walmart one day, and I was like, what about the beads? Went right over to the beads, grabbed some beads, some string, the clamps, the scissors, grabbed everything, went back and just started. And loved it. Started posting pictures, people like them. It was cool, I come back home, and I saw a lady who, she's like an aunt to me. I spoke to her about this memorial tournament for her daughter, and this was the second day I moved back. I believe it was April 22nd. She had said, I told her, I was like, I'm going to have this tournament for you, and we're going to raise the money. We're going to get the scholarship going again. I did the tournament. 16 teams showed up, 4 people on every team. Tournament went like clockwork. I owe my homeboy Marcus. He's helped me a whole lot, and that aspect of things and other things. And there's a lot of people who are in my corner hard, who are riding for me, who support me, who believe in me, because I might talk crazy to some people, you know what I mean, but I have a dream, I have a belief, I have a vision, and nobody's going to tell me I can't do it, and all of this comes from sobriety. My whole being, I owe to the Creator. I owe to, my ancestors who had, started. I read the Red Brook to Wellbriety. Also Bill W. Don't take none from him. But I'm thankful for everyone in front of me. I don't care if I got 4 years. I don't care. You got 4.5 years. Thank you. You got 5 years. Thank you. Everybody in front of me introduced me, showed me a whole new way of living. There's so many things I have planned. I started writing a book. Opportunity popped up with that. My daughter worked on the relationship. There's been a lot of damage. A lot. But in God's time. I just need to focus on me. I need to focus on doing right for others. And, you know, just really understanding that we all matter. We all may not feel like it at times. Society puts so much pressure on us. A lot of us don't even feel comfortable in our own skin, which I know I never forget, and I will never forget. The house with no electricity, the hospitals, my mother cussing me out, getting kicked out of the house. I mean, that list goes on, man. I've said some real disrespectful things to people who did not deserve it. And to be where I'm at now, man, you know, I suggest to anybody out there, you're going through anything, I'm always available. Always. You can find me on Facebook, Levoy, Levoy Foster. Instagram, same name. I'm always, you know, willing. My willingness hasn't let up. Since walking to that church I was telling you about, I remember, here I go again, going backwards. This one dude, it was raining, not too bad. He was like, oh man, we gotta walk today, it's raining. And the guy was like, listen, if you were at home and you had $7 in your pocket, would you walk in that weather to the liquor store or to go get some crack? He said, yeah. So you mean to tell me you're going to put up a fight to go save your life? Not normal. Moments. I haven't had a bad day in 4 years. I've had moments, trying moments. Trust me, trying. I know what to do with that stuff today. I am not scared to ask for help at all. My pride and my ego have done so much damage because I had it in the wrong spot. I haven't dealt with so many other things. What do you think is going to happen? And I'm not speaking to people who are just, you know, if you suffer from, you know, alcoholism or being a drug addict, of course, we are in this together. If you have just things, you know, trauma, whatever, that you feel like you need to talk, I'm here. Life, man. We're in this together. Nobody is better than anybody. Nobody. And don't get somebody's occupation, their job, confused with them being a person. I don't care that you play in the NFL, NBA, baseball, singer, actor, actress, and you have millions of dollars. At the end of the day, you still go to sleep at night. You still go to the bathroom every morning. You still have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you get cut, I promise you blood's going to come out of it. We breathe the same air. Nobody's better than anybody. And don't ever let anybody tell you that they are, because they're not. Period. You know, I love each and every last person watching this. Thank you. This helps me just as much. I can't forget where I'm coming from. I can't. I don't have a choice. I don't leave me with choices. The book of Alcoholics Anonymous told me what's going to happen to me once I let up on my spiritual growth. I've watched it happen. I've watched it happen. I don't want it to happen to me. I don't want anything to happen to you. I love you guys. Thank you for watching.